This piece of crap is harassing and doxing people, okay? Inciting violence toward them, but hey, you know what? She's doing it on behalf of the Jewish state, right? So it's okay. So we're not gonna report who this woman really is.
You then went on to say our country was built by white Europeans, not third world invaders from India. I think you should do more than just express regret. From what I can see, you're brazenly racist and Islamophobic. And I'm sorry to say that we have Atiti Devo Bhava in this country where we welcome all, but your comments smack of anti-Indianism, worse still, Islamophobia, and even worse, racism, which has no place, ma'am, in today's world. So get real, ma'am. Sorry to say that, but that comments are unacceptable to me as an Indian and as a world citizen.
Well, I will say that I don't believe that Islamophobia is real. I believe Islamophobia is a hoax.
Everything that gentleman said about loony Laura Loomer is 100% correct, but you wouldn't know it if you relied on the New York Times to inform you about Laura Loomer, because they just published a puff piece. Even as this woman is on X on a daily basis, literally doxing private American citizens because they happen to be in the same family with a public figure who's critical of Israel, simply critical of Israel. Cenk.
So there's two amazing parts of this story. The way that they sanitized Laura Loomer and made it seem like she was the angelic fighter against the evildoers is unbelievable. I mean, that's basically the New York Times saying, okay, you caught us. We're not doing real news. This is just propaganda, okay? It's totally mask off. But the second amazing part is why they wrote the story in the first place. So, especially if you're a Republican, you're gonna wanna listen to this. All right, go ahead, Ann.
So the piece is titled, "How the Fight Over Israel is Playing Out Inside MAGA. The War in Iran has added to a tectonic shift in public opinion, a bipartisan swing away from Israel. Some on the far right are fighting to keep President Trump's movement aligned with the Jewish state."
Notice how they put in the Jewish state, right?
Yep.
Like right away from the beginning. It's not that big a deal, but it's all about how do we frame things.
Yeah.
So now remember, if you're opposed to Israel, you're not just opposed to Israel, you're opposed to the Jewish state and against Jewish people. What a terrible, disgusting person you are. I've never seen them say, and the critics of the Muslim state, okay, Saudi Arabia.
Well,
no, they just say Saudi Arabia.
Right.
They don't hide behind Muslims. They just, so.
No, you guys, this is I looked into the writer of this piece. And Pulitzer Prize winning journalist.
Hilarious.
Went to Harvard.
Okay. Of course he did.
His name is, let me look it up, Anton Troinovsky. Okay, Troinovsky. And total puff piece. So for instance, he didn't include any of Loomer's racist and Islamophobic statements in any of the reporting here.
Not one.
Not
and there's
once.
like a million.
Not once. Didn't talk about how she doxes, bullies, harasses private American citizens because again, they have a family member who has been critical of Israel. So here's how they describe Loomer, or how he describes Loomer in this piece. Loomer, who gained prominence last year after pushing Trump to fire White House officials she deemed disloyal, is emerging as one of the president's most aggressive pro-Israel enforcers. So, by the way, a Pew Research Center survey back in March found that 57% of Republicans under the age of 50 years old have an unfavorable view of Israel. So young people, both left and right in the United States, would like to sever our relationship with Israel because it's been detrimental to us. Let me get through the story first.
No, I know, but real quick on this one. So they say she's gained prominence, but they don't like they make it seem like it's a positive thing. They don't ask, wait, I thought for sure the next sentence was gonna be, how, why? Why is this random hate, put aside that she's hateful, this random blogger or whatever she is allowed to fire people inside the White House? But they made no examination of that at all. That would be journalism.
There's nothing negative about her at all in this piece. She is so disgusting that even Republicans make fun of her. But this piece by the liberal New York Times doesn't say anything about who this woman really is, but okay. So they literally make her seem like she's heroic or something. So they write that her attacks on what used to be her fellow allies of Trump are evidence of the urgency that some in the president's camp and supporters of a close relationship with Israel see in seeking to blunt the influence of right-wing critics of the Jewish state?
Here we go again.
Okay, I see you, Anton. I see you, Anton.
No, Anton's
disgusting. Okay?
No, it's not just
this piece of crap is harassing and doxing people, okay, inciting violence toward them. But hey, you know what? She's doing it on behalf of the Jewish state, right? So it's okay. So we're not gonna report who this woman really is.
No, this piece is so bad. It doesn't just discredit the New York Times, it discredits the Pulitzer Prize. This is garbage.
100%
dumpster fire. Okay, yeah. The doxing, listen to how he characterized the doxing. On her X account with nearly 2 million followers, again, sounds positive, Ms. Loomer refers to Israel as our greatest ally and discloses purported personal details about prominent critics of Israel and Mr. Trump. So she doesn't dox them and endanger their family or try to get them fired. She purportedly put out personal information about Israel's critics who seem to have deserved it.
I know, that stood out to me as well, Cenk, and infuriated me because look at the laundering of. By the way, can you imagine if, let's say I was a lunatic like Laura Loomer and spent all day, every day on X doxing the Zionist crowd, the pro-Israel crowd. First of all, I would never in a million years do that, okay? I'm willing to debate ideas. I'm willing to win based on persuading people that our alliance with Israel is detrimental to the American people. I would never in a million years try to get Zionists fired from their jobs. I wouldn't harass their family members. This is what Laura Loomer does all day, every day. And in fact, Anton did her a favor. He advertised her up and coming newsletter.
Yeah, that's the point of this piece, guys. So it's not just like randomly let's fluff Laura Loomer, which they most certainly did, but it's to say Loomer is the legitimate Republican and all the other Republicans that are opposed to Israel are illegitimate. She's now raising money to go try to destroy them even more. But it's not to destroy them, they're purported this or that, right? And they're disgustingly against the Jewish state, and no Republican really likes them at all, right? And so all the framing is, maybe you should help Laura Loomer destroy Israel's critics.
No, but you're right,
it's like a giant ad for her.
So there are no quotes to counter Laura Loomer at all, no context to help people understand that she's putting out lies about Israel being our special ally. But anyway, they do quote people who bolster Laura Loomer's argument. So for instance, Anton chose to use a quote from a representative within the Florida House of Representatives, okay? So his name is Chase Tremont, and here's the quote that they used. It's been very shocking. You have so many younger folks on the right that are actually singing the same tune that the radical left is singing. All these crazy people who are critical of Israel, Laura Loomer's a hero for going after them.
So Anton couldn't find a single critic of Laura Loomer, but he found a whole bunch of people to say, yeah, any Republicans that doesn't support Laura Loomer is actually a radical leftist liberal, and all good Republicans should support Laura Loomer and beloved Jewish state of Israel, and everyone else is an anti-Semite. Anton, man, you gotta do better than this. You guys used to be more sophisticated in your propaganda. This is just flat out, I love Israel, and if you don't, I'll destroy you.
So Anton, maybe you need a little bit of help. You won the Pulitzer, but maybe you need some help with research. Maybe you don't really know who Laura Loomer really is. So let me show you who Laura Loomer is. Let's take a look at video 2.
And for some reason, there's a lot of people that are really afraid of this nappy-headed black bitch who just has a lot to say, but not really a lot to offer. So I'm not afraid of Candace Owens, and I'm happy to match her energy. I'm happy to wrestle in the mud with that bitch.
That's totally okay. Now, if a critic of Israel said the exact same thing about Candace Owens, and Anton was writing about that individual, do you think he would forget to include that statement?
Let's say they're doing a piece on, I don't know, Hassan Piker or Candace Owens. Would they forget to write the lines? No, they'd be like, Hassan Piker, who's terrible, this, that, the other thing. Candace Owens is a disgusting racist, blah, 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 right? Or whatever, anti-Semite. But with Laura Loomer, they're like, oh, golly gee, we just can't find the research. watch 1 minute of anything she does and she'll say something racist against black people, against Muslims. She said 2,000 terrible things about Muslims. Anton's like, I could not find it. I think everyone should support her new effort. I mean, you guys make the choice. Either you support her and save the Republican Party, or you're a terrible anti-Semite. So if you're worried about bigotry against Jewish people, are you saying, Anton, that you don't give a, and New York Times, the editors said, oh, this is a brilliant piece. Let's publish it just like this. So all those total propagandists at the New York Times, you couldn't find a single negative thing that Laura Loomer has said, and you call yourselves journalists? But yet every time someone opposes Israel, did you know what kind of tattoo he has? Do you know what he said in 1993? Okay, yeah, you liars.
Final thing that I'll mention about this ridiculous puff piece, and by the way, I'm done with the New York Times. After you have Lulu Garcia Navarro saying, I'm the former Israel-Palestine correspondent for the paper, and then she spends 2 hours attacking Tucker Carlson because he dared to ask questions about Israel's intentions on his own podcast. That made it clear to me they're not doing real journalism when it comes to this particular issue. And then you have this puff piece on literally Laura Loomer, which is, I can't believe it. I can't believe that the New York Times of all places would do this puff piece, but here it is. But final thing I'll note is they did quote one other person. Another ally to Israel, Elliot Cohen, he's a former senior State Department official from the George W. Bush administration. Here's what he said. Cohen is among those who see the shift against Israel as driven in part by ingrained anti-Semitism.
Of course.
Quote, there always was an anti-Israel and also anti-Semitic part of the Republican Party, he said.
Yeah, so, okay, 2 things out of that. Number 1, you see Republicans, you are all dirty anti-Semites. How dare you, okay? Now, what's interesting about it, guys, is that apparently the editors and the reporters at the New York Times couldn't think of any other reason why you might be opposed to Israel. Like a genocide or a war they pushed us into that's been disastrous, an invasion of southern Lebanon, displacing 1 million people there. No, there's only one theory in this article as to why you might not love what Israel's doing now. You're a dirty anti-Semite. The Democrats were already obviously dirty anti-Semites, but now all the Republicans are too, especially if you're under 50 years old. So they couldn't find a single person to oppose Laura Loomer. They couldn't find a single negative quote of Laura Loomer. Yep. And they couldn't find a single other reason why people might be upset at Israel in this country. So do you see how the entire Times, your whole life, mainstream media and the New York Times has been lying to you in this exact way? But of course, since before there was no online media, you couldn't find another person in mainstream media to show you how they were lying to you.
That's true, that's exactly right.
Right, now we're showing it to you. So I have one last one. Now he frames all the politicians as, well, at least the politicians realize who the popular and wonderful allies are, Israel. And of course, since he's a New York Times reporter, it never occurred to him, maybe the politician's getting money from the Israeli lobby. You anti-Semite, how dare you state facts, right? But get a load of this final touch. So he's talking about Florida, and again, he talks about the legislature, and he's framing it, Anton, as, sorry, your last name is, you haven't changed it yet. So I know when you go to Israel, you will, and you'll pretend that you never had that Eastern European name. But anyways, okay, so he's now pretending though, no, support for Israel so deep in places like Florida where Loomer is. He says, support for Israel runs so deep that the legislature last year lifted credit rating limits to allow local governments to buy more Israeli bonds.
Yep.
Oh, because popular support runs so deep? Do you have a poll on that, Anton? You don't have a poll, do you? Did it ever occur to you that Israel might be a little bit more popular in the legislature than it is among the population? Because almost everyone in the legislature is taking money from the Israeli lobby? That never occurred to you? No, you framed it like, oh, Israel is so popular in the country and in Florida and within the Republican Party. There's only these radical liberals like Tucker Carlson and Marjorie Taylor Greene. And they're the only ones against this benighted, wonderful Laura Loomer, who's trying to raise money. Remember, all supporters of Israel, Laura Loomer's trying to raise money to destroy Israel's critics. So, and remember, she's an angel.
Right.
Couldn't find a single thing wrong with her. Come on. Absolutely humiliating, not just for this writer and not just for the New York Times, for everyone who works at the New York Times. This is your company and you sign off on this stuff. You stay there and you don't object when your editors ask you to write a propaganda piece to lie to your readers on behalf of Israel, and try criticizing Israel in the New York Times. See how that works out for you. They'll threaten to fire you, right? But yet you stay there like someone who's working for money and not someone who's an actual journalist.
It is tough out there in the journalism field, so I get it, but I wouldn't work there.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.